to climb this 30-kilometer mountain, rainy season, 45 degrees with humidity in the middle of a jungle, and the horses can't walk.
Should have been a cowboy. I should have learned to rope ride.
So Filipe, I think there's only one way we start this podcast. Am I right?
Oh, you're right, buddy. Got it right here.
There it is. 3, 2, 1. Lift off.
Oh.
We are headed to the moon, potentially beyond. But I'm really excited. Episode 3 should have been a cowboy. When I shave my beard way down, this mustache kind of gives me a Mexican-esque kind of vibe, though. You know.
I know, bro. I know. I imagine when you were living down south and you were nice and tanned, you probably had a real Mexican-esque feel to you.
I did, dude. And it was so funny because the owner of the dive shop, because I had some surfer hair going on where it was a little bit longer on top, shorter on the sides. It was just growing in.
Nice.
And being on the water every day and the reflection off the ocean and in the sun, it started to like bleach out a bit naturally. And so he used to give me a hard time all the time. He'd be like, bro, with hair like that, you need to be over in Puerto Escondido, not here in Huatuco. Like, go where the surfers are. Get out of here.
That's so funny. I'd love to see a photo of that. Can we get a photo for the next episode?
I will plug a photo into the YouTube right now. So if you guys haven't already, go over to our YouTube channel. Should have been a cowboy podcast. You're going to be able to see the natural highlights from the Mexican sunshine on Cowboy Cole's Noodle.
Oh my God, that's amazing. I can't wait. I haven't seen this photo either, so I'll be on there as well. We also have our Instagram, which is up. Should have been a cowboy on Instagram, so check that out. Give us the follow, share it. And I'd like to apologize. I wanted to start the podcast apologizing for sounding like I was broadcasting straight out of a submarine for the last 2 episodes. My mic didn't work. I put on my AirPods. It didn't get my Rode mic. It got the AirPod mic, and it sounds terrible.
But I'm really excited for this episode, Filipe, because in the previous one, you talked to me a little bit about who the heck I am, what the heck I have going on, and how we've got to this point. And today, I'm really excited to talk to you about how you are now sitting in Calgary, Alberta. And you had mentioned that when you and Clarita had first moved to Calgary there for that month stretch, and it was minus 40. Well, you kind of grew up in a different kind of cold on the eastern side of Canada over in Ontario. And I know that that's a bit more humid of an environment over there. What were the winters like over there? I've never been to Ontario. I've been an hour from the Ontario line one time in my life. And so talk to us a little bit about, the winters over there, cowboying over there, like what that all looks like where you grew up.
Yeah, buddy. So I grew up outside of Toronto, a little town called Caledon in Ontario. And honestly, like when we were kids, I feel like, I know like when we get older, we have these things like when we were kids, dude, it snowed 10 fucking feet every day. It just felt like that, man. Like honestly, it felt like it was colder and it snowed way more. I remember like for Halloween, my mom and dad would get us costumes that we could wear over our snowsuit because, guess what? October, it's going to be snowing and cold like 90% of the time. The first year I arrived, actually, it snowed on my birthday, November 1st, for the first time because I was originally born in Brazil. And that was like a present from God. I wanted to see snow so bad because talk about a lack of winter. Brazil has no winter. It'll get down to like 15 degrees, maybe 10. The odd time, but it's hot all year round. So yeah, man, I think Ontario is definitely not as cold as here. The winters there, it would drop to like maybe minus 40 for a couple days, minus 30 for a couple days, but honestly, the rest of it was pretty mild and it's getting more and more mild. We were living out there as well a couple years ago. And honestly, it snowed maybe 2-3 times in the year and it would melt real quick. But yeah, I had a great time growing up there. Loved that area of Caledon. It was very rural. A lot of high school rodeos, a lot of, there was the Ontario Roping Association, the Ontario Rodeo Association. A lot of people think that there's no cowboys out in the East, but definitely a lot of cowboys, very handy people. And I learned a lot from the community there around me in the rodeo world.
Yeah, that's huge, man. And it's really cool because the Western roots spread to places that we wouldn't ever really give it credit. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So you can kind of go anywhere and wear a cowboy hat and run into like-minded people, your kind of people, right? So I think it's really cool that there is a strong, healthy cowboy livelihood going on over there. And so you started in Brazil, you kind of grew up mostly in Canada. How did you guys end up coming from Brazil into Ontario?
So my dad, when he was 16 years old, he backpacked around the world, him and his brother, and they would kind of like work for a month and then travel for whatever 5 months, however much money they were able to make during that time. And they found themselves in Ontario. This is like 1970 something, 60 something. I don't know. No, my dad was born in 1960, so 1970, I guess six. He's in Ontario. He's in London working at a tobacco farm, and they spent a couple months here working and living the dream in Canada. And he just got this idea in his head. He's like, man, I want to raise my family here in Canada. Like, I hope one day when I have kids, when I start my family, I bring them back. You know, he's always loved this kind of idea of the American cowboy and the West, and the cowboy to us in Brazil. We know he comes from the US and Canada. You know, to us, we have that dream of Rocky Mountains and all of that. So sure enough, when we were born, my sister and I, my first sister Paola and I, we were super young. My dad was working with coffee. We live in a huge coffee area of Brazil where my town's from, and he started exporting coffee to Canada and met a family of Italians. They lived in Caledon and Bolton, Ontario, outside of Toronto, and you know, he started coming up more and more every year and doing business with them, and got to the point where he's like, you know what, it's now or never. So sold everything in Brazil and moved the family to the Great White North.
Man, that's crazy to think about, moving that far away. And it's one thing to load your stuff into a backpack and leave and go figure it out and do whatever you got to do to survive. Like, that's one thing, but to load up the niños and the wife
man,
and hop on a plane and guess what, guys? We're going to the land of maple syrup. You know, bring your
going to Mexico. Yeah, we're going to Canada.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, man, it's crazy, but it's really cool, man. And I just feel so blessed. Like, it's I always say that we're like a mirrored image of our parents, right? All the love they gave us and the lessons we talked about, a little bit about it in the first few episodes, you know, talking about this cowboy culture and inheriting this from our parents. And you know, you talked about your dad and how he used to ride bareback, and he was the one that was your first kind of let's say hero, right? That you wanted to be a rodeo cowboy, just like him. And that's the same thing that happened to me. You know, if my dad and my mom didn't have the courage to say, hey, you know what, this is going to be hard. We're going to knock notches down in our life. Like, you know, we were upper middle class in Brazil. Well, guess what? When you come to Canada, you ain't upper middle class anymore. You're a lower class immigrant. Like, my mom cleaned houses when I was growing up. My dad drove a coffee truck in construction areas. And so for them, like, my dad used to own a coffee business in Brazil. So it was hard for them, obviously, to bring the kids to be away from their family. But I feel blessed that they were able to take that step. They were able to face that fear and give us this life, because ultimately it changed my life. You know, I'm here talking to you today because of their decision to move to Canada when I was 9 years old.
That's huge. That sacrifice to set your kids up for as much success as they are ambitious to go get. And it's really cool to now be chatting with you and to look on your wall back there and see the long rider, you know, your journey, your story that's evolved into so much. So it's crazy how much that sacrifice has come back around. But something I want to touch on is when you talked about, you know, you guys went from upper middle class in Brazil, then you moved to Canada. You had to downgrade that status, and you said now you're also immigrants in this country. And then what happened was probably the scariest thing an immigrant could ever get, is getting those papers where it was like, hey, buddy, you got to go, which is the position you found yourself in, correct?
100%. Yeah. Every immigrant's nightmare. You know, you deal with this anxiety that comes with this paperwork and rules and regulations, and you're literally an alien. That is, you know, the Americans use this term a lot for immigrants. You're an alien, and that's what you are, literally. Like, and they make you feel it every time you have to talk to an immigrant official. They make sure you know you're not from here, and you could be kicked out at any time. And you know, my dad had a work permit that he renewed for 8 years, and on year 8 it got denied. We got a letter saying you got 15 days to leave the country. My whole family went into like chaos mode, and because, you know, we had planned our life to stay here. I had a horse. I used to rope. My dad had friends. We had a life. We had a house. Our whole life was here, and the plan was to stay here. Like the plan was to eventually, from this work permit, transition into a citizenship. Yeah, man, it was like someone took the ground from underneath me. My dad ended up hiring a lawyer who gave him some bad advice at the time and said, apply from within Canada, apply for humanitarian reasons. They're going to give it to you. They're going to give you your citizenship. And that wasn't the case. We should have left at that time. You couldn't apply from within Canada, but hindsight is 2020. And we spent 2 years waiting for that decision. And after my first year of university, we got another letter saying, denied, you have 30 days this time to leave the country. And yeah, bro, it was just like, it was like the first time I really, I think, faced adversity and didn't really know what tomorrow would bring.
15 days, like 1-5 is the amount of time they gave you to get out.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. Like to pack up your entire life,
And
yeah, it's a heartless world, bro. It's a heartless world. Once you get into like the itty gritty of immigration and all that, it's it's tough, man. It teaches you humility, though. That's one of the things that I really value. I think everything we go through in our lives is a teaching opportunity. You know what I mean? I always say, like, every day when you wake up, you have 2 pair of glasses you can put on. Everyone has them, and they cost no money. It's positivity and negativity, and you're going to choose what lens you're going to use to see the sunshine, the snow, the rain, the wind, whatever. And that was a pretty shitty situation that happened to me at an early age. I was 17 when we got that first letter. But this whole process with immigration taught me to be humble, man, because they strip you down. And if you don't have humility, you'll quit right away. You got to be hit in the face 50, 60, 70, 80, 100 times before, you're able to cross that finish line. And I got my PR, my permanent residency, like last year when I was 37 years old, So this whole process with immigration, all the letters, all the meetings with these immigration officials that just basically spit in your face and you just got to sit there and take it, was a big teaching for me, and I think it made me a better person.
Dude, that's huge. 17 years old, you get that letter. Did you immediately think, oh shit, I got to find somebody to marry?
Nah, that's so funny. No, man, like my friends are like, I had friends, like girlfriends, that would be like, yo, just marry me, man. Like whatever, just marry me. Who cares? Like the whole community was really hurt by it, right? Like it's a small town in Ontario, and Canada sells this idea that it's a perfect place. Immigration is perfect. We take in, thousands of people from war zones every year. And when you get down to the truth of it, it's not so perfect. They're trying their best, but obviously there's flaws in every system. So, my friends offered, the entire community was hurt, but I just wanted to do it legally. You know what I mean? Like at that moment, I was really hurt by it. Like my dad always paid taxes. We were, a positive part of the community. I volunteered. Like I said, I grew up rodeoing. I only did good things. My family only did good things. So to me, it was a huge slap in the face. Like I was like, you know what? If they don't want me, fuck it. I don't want to be here. So when I got that second letter, like when we got our citizenship denied, I was all about going back to Brazil. I'm like, you know what? I'm done. I'm going back to Brazil.
That's huge. And now 20 years later, you're 37, you have your PR, you're moved back into Calgary. It's crazy how things come full circle. And like you said, that was kind of the start of the process. I think that maybe was preparing you for what you were going to deal with on your big journey to come. And so I want to dip 100%. Into that right now, because we see the Long Rider poster on the back wall, an incredible story. And every time I get to listen to you talk about it, I always learn something new about that journey. But I want to kick it off from the start. You were inspired by Scheifele's ride. And this is an old Switzerland cowboy who really set the bar for you boys. How would you talk a little bit about how you got into long riding? And for those who don't know, what exactly Long Rider is?
Yeah, so Chifley was just like this. The guy changed my life. He literally, like, by taking that decision to ride 2 Criollo horses from Argentina to New York, little did he know that almost a century later, this crazy Brazilian kid was going to be so inspired by this guy's story. And and book that I was gonna do it, myself. So that's cool. I always give him props every interview I do, every time I talk about my story. I shout him out, because if it wasn't for him, I would have never done it. So 1925, this guy was a retired boxer. He had boxed for a few years, and he was a school teacher. He moves to Buenos Aires, Argentina, from Switzerland, to teach in an all-boys school, teach English, and falls in love with the Criollo breed, which are kind of like the Mustangs of Latin America. When the explorers brought the horses from the old world, from Europe to the Americas, the horses that got loose and became Pharaoh, in North America, the Mustang was the Criollo in South America. And then a vet by the name of Emilio Solanet in the turn of the century, early 1900s. He was a horse vet, loved horses, and he knew where the best studs were that the Spanish had brought. And there was one herd in particular where they had lost all these fights, and they returned to Spain, but left the herd there, specifically one stallion that he really loved the bloodlines. And so he went to Patagonia to find this herd. This is obviously several years later now, and the herd had expanded, and he took some of those mares, some of those colts, and he put them on a train and took them back to Buenos Aires and started refining the breed, like we did with the quarter horse, by breeding the Mustang with purebreds, and eventually you start breeding them, and we have the quarter horse that we know today that can turn barrels and heel and tie down rope and cut and all that. So starts doing that to that breed, and it becomes the Criollo horse. So Chifley fell in love with this horse just because it was like a tank. It was so strong, so versatile, and he wanted to show that was the strongest horse in the world. So that's why he decides to go on his long ride from Buenos Aires to New York, and he does it. Takes him 3 years. He gets there. Once he gets there, he writes a book called Chifley's Ride. Flash forward to, 1994, 1993. My dad used to read this book to me every night to show me that fear that didn't exist, to show me that, we had to face our fear and live our purpose, and, the power of the horse and adventure. And for some reason, man, I love that story so much. It became my life's dream to one day go on my own long ride. A long ride is a journey of 1,000 miles or more consecutively. So you got to travel 1,000 miles or more from point A to point B before you can become a long rider. And I spent my entire life dreaming about this till once I finished university. It was like, man, I had to do this or I do nothing, and took that step.
Man, incredible. Absolutely incredible. And what a way to, teach your kid about, just hard work and determination,
Yes,
and just waking up every day and putting a foot forward, one more. Because
Yes,
taking
sir.
3 years to ride from Argentina to New York, there's a lot of people that don't stick with anything for 6 months,
Yeah,
2 months, 2 weeks,
a week
right?
nowadays.
So you're talking about like, no, I'm leaving this day and I'm
Yeah.
going here. And the other thing too, like, getting to know you, looking into like the Long Rider Guild and stuff on my own, the thing that really clicked in my brain was 1,000 miles consecutively. Because growing up riding horses, I've probably done 1,000 miles 10 times, but never
Easy, yeah.
with the intent of getting somewhere. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm so excited to get into this part of where, you had a crazy progression to lead up to the day that you took off to ride. Imagine preparing yourself for the biggest test of your school career, and then multiply that by 1 billion is what this man would have had to go through to just get ready to go on this ride. And the one thing I can't get out of my brain, so I'm going to jump to it, is you left from the Calgary Stampede, from the parade that day, with your horses and your packs ready to go, and you took off south, and you went a handful of hours and weren't even outside of Calgary yet, like the city limits of Calgary. And all I could think of in my brain was like, man, when I left to leave for Colorado, I left my yard at 6:30 in the morning. I was at the border by 9:30 in the morning, waiting in line. By the time I got through them, got my horse papers signed by the vet, I was 5 hours across the line and freaking rolling heavy in the Cummins in the United States. You're a couple hours into your ride. You're not even out of the city yet.
Yeah, man. It's It's exactly that. It's you have to retrain your mind. Like you really go from this like fast-paced society that we live in, where you drive 20 kilometers in 15 minutes, 20 minutes. Everything is like this, and
Mm-hmm.
you go from that to 3 kilometers an hour, 30 kilometers a day. Like you literally shift gears, and it happens so quickly. Like on day one, there's no grace period. It's not like it slowly slows down. It just goes from 100 to zero real quick. As soon as I got on that horse from the Calgary Stampede, and I ate of 2012 heading south, it hit. Fuck, am I doing? Like, how is this ever going to work out? Like,
Yeah.
the world is not built for this. Like, my mind is not built for this. My patience is not, you know what I mean? So, yeah, man, that was one of the hardest days of my life. That first day of just getting hit by the monstrosity of the project, of the ride, the difficulty. It was so hot. I had to do like everything because I was the crew.
Mm-hmm.
It was a Sorrel, a Palomino, and me. That was it. Like there was no one else out there. There was no crew. There was no team. So I had to, get interviewed. I had to film everything. I had to tack these horses. I had to get them ready for the ride. And then I have to be the guy riding the horses, and it was tough, man. It was really tough to kind of deal with that anxiety and that stress at such a high level. But it's what you said, it's one foot in front of the next, and it's taking very small steps every single day and sticking to it and not giving up. And it's not going to happen 1 week to the next or one day to the next. It's going to take years. But again, I think that's also a huge teaching, a huge lesson for me as a person. This ride bettered me because it taught me so many lessons, but that was ultimately one of the biggest, and the first one that it's not going to happen at the blink of an eye. It's going to take a long time.
Big time. And what an opportunity to work through those emotions on the back of a horse. I've always said they are the best energy recyclers. You could be having the worst day, and even if you just walked up to your horse in the pen and wrapped your friggin' arms around their neck and just stood there with them, man, you can feel them absorb that negative energy and just sponge it out. And so for you to be able to sit on the back of that horse and just one step after another, trugging along in the freaking 35 Celsius Calgary heat, cars flying by you, getting to where they need to go like that. And you're just like, great, I've got 2.5 years of this left to go. And it's not always going to be hot like this.
Yeah.
That's nuts, man.
Yeah, man. It's definitely a mind fuck. It's definitely like it will break a man. And I think that that's why people quit, right? People always talk to me like, man, like physically that must have been so hard, riding these horses 30 kilometers every day and sleeping on top of saddle pads and dealing with whatever, the cold, the heat, walking every day. And honestly, like the physical aspect of it was nothing compared to the mental. If you don't have mental fortitude, if you don't control the most important muscle in your body, one of the most important tools we have, you will do nothing with your life, and that's what breaks people is their mind. And I think that if you can't control your mind, your anxiety, your fears, everything that comes with it, you will never do anything. You will never, achieve greatness.
Absolutely. I agree 1,000%. You had touched on those immigration papers and getting told you got to go. Can you break us down a little bit about what the border processes were like the farther you got south? And just, you weren't just dealing with yourself and getting yourself across these new foreign borders. You had animals. And if you've never traveled with a horse or any kind of animal, you need specific paperwork from vets signed off, like a bunch of stuff to be able to get these horses imported and exported into different countries. So what was that process like? Literally riding up to the border window and Buddy just looking at you like, what the hell?
What is going on? Yeah, man, it was wild. Like the hardest part about what I did were the borders. It wasn't the bears. It wasn't these these dangerous situations I got myself into. It was those man-made lines, like, and especially with the horses. The easiest was the US, Canada, US. You got your Coggins paper, you're done, right? It
Yeah.
was Montana. They got me through. I was really scared because all this anxiety building up. You start to run things through your head, especially when you're on top of a horse for traveling so slow. You're drawing all these scenarios out a million times a day. So I got a month from Calgary to that border, Bab, Montana, and I'm constantly thinking about everything that could go wrong. Like everything that could happen, everything. And I get there, and it was honestly, it was the best. And people were taking photos. Like they found me my first layover already. They were just great people. I love
Phenomenal.
Montana. I love the heartland of the U.S. They're such kind and just salt of the earth people. But then once we got to like Mexico, then shit hit the fan. That's when it started getting hard because there are no laws down there. There are no regulations. It's just whatever they want to do with you, and they want money. It's so corrupt. Like that first border, Mexico has this like stupid law where, as a foreigner, you can only import 2 animals into the country, 2 horses. You can't import 3. So max of 2. I had 3 because they gave me a Mustang in the southern U.S. So all of a sudden it was like, that was the first huge problem. Like, what the hell do I do with the Mustang? So then I met a guy named Jesus, this really young kid. I was talking to Doc. I put him into Jesus's hands. He was like the 16-year-old slick back Mexican guy. And he's like, don't worry, man. He's like, I'll get this horse into Mexico in 5 minutes. So I pay him $500. He rides dude through the Rio Grande, which is like really, it's really shallow there at that point. And he rides him into freaking Mexico. The guy calls me. He's like, all right, dude's in Mexico. I'm like, frick, perfect. And then it took like weeks to get Frenchie and Bruiser, the other 2 horses, in, because then you're just dealing with whatever they want. And every day it's like, it's a new form. It's a new thing. They make up all these things. So you eventually start paying everyone off. You're paying everyone off. And then finally you get in. And then like from Mexico to Guatemala, I just entered illegally. Like I realized it was going to be so hard to do it legally. So I got him with a guy that used to transport horses and cattle and whatever you wanted across these little trails. And then from then on, I had to start befriending the drug lords so that I didn't get shot and killed. And it just got harder and harder and harder the further south we got.
Did you find that, you said it took you a month to get to the first border and you just had ample time to think of any and all situations that could go right, could go wrong, could go 50-50. Did you find that you were reaching a point to where, maybe you didn't know where you were going to get water for the night, or what you were going to eat for the next couple of days, or how you were going to get 1 of 3 horses or 3 of 3 horses across a border? Did you find that, you just kind of had to release it and be like, I don't know, but it's going to fucking work out? And then there'd be a gift from God, a gift from the universe, something, that slick back kid come out and be like, I can help. Did you find that you would let go and next thing you know, your solution was presented?
Yeah, definitely, man. That's easier said than done. I would love to say that no, I didn't have any anxiety, but yeah, for sure. Like it definitely brings everything down to just this natural way of life. Like, and that was so good to my core. Like it did so good for me. I could tell that like something innate in me really loved this pursuit of survival, which I think is so natural for a human. Find shelter, find water, find food, don't die, wake up the next day, do it again. It's a very natural way of living, and you start to learn that you can't worry about the bridge till you get there. Literally, because worrying helps nothing. And this worrying comes from all these fake things that we create in our life. What's the dollar at? What is the barrel of oil? These things are totally not important and we can't control, we can't do anything about, end up controlling people's lives and creating so much fear and anxiety. And when you're out there, like you said, these things just like materialize, the Jesus, this guy, or when dude fell into a cattle guard in Central America, and in
Right.
5 minutes, these 2 kids that were fishing walked by, and they had an uncle that had a truck, and I was able to put dude on the truck and save his life. And, these things just started happening. And ultimately it taught me that God exists. It brought me closer to God. It brought me closer to my faith. And I had to rely on it in order not to go crazy. And ultimately it showed me that in the end, everything works out. It's all written by the same hand. Everyone has an expiry date. We just don't know it. And when that day comes, that day comes. And until then, you just got to keep putting your foot in front of the other and following your instincts and getting on this journey, finding your purpose, because I truly find our purpose, is our ride on this earth. Mine was a long ride. Yours is the comedy and the videos and getting behind the mic, and everyone has a different purpose, no matter how big or how small it may be. God gave you that purpose, and I feel blessed that I was able to tap into mine at such an early age and make it happen. But yeah, man, to answer your question, you literally start to realize that there's no point of stressing about that problem until you get there, till you get to the base of that bridge, and when you do, you'll figure out a way to cross it.
Amen, man. I think you said it best. Like, God gave you the dream for a reason. You were able to recognize it, act on it, pursue it. So
Yes,
any
sir.
problems that are going to arise with that dream, they will be accompanied by a solution. It might take a little
Yes.
bit of, a little bit of anxiety, some stress, some oh fuck, what now? But that's a part of living, man. That's a part of being a human and feeling, like
Exactly, man. It's a part of being alive. Ultimately, like every day we get up, like, and that was a huge lesson as well that you learn out there, is that number one, the beauty of life is in the little things. The smaller the thing, the more beautiful and powerful and important it is. Like, we oftentimes in our society today, we put value on money and things that aren't real, like monetary things, like objects. And money is super important. That's something I've had to learn to deal with as well, the power of our words. I used to say, I don't want money, I want happiness. I want to live this life and enjoy it. And guess what? For the first couple of years of my life, that's all God gave me, because that's what I was asking for. He wasn't giving me money, and I was always complaining, man, I don't have money. But man, I crossed all these continents on horseback. But that's what I was speaking out into the universe. So today, I am very, like, I know the power of my words, and I know that, guess what? It is important to have all these moments, and it is important to live life fully, but it's also important to have money. So, but I think you can't put all your like your life into that, because what I learned out there is that being with someone I loved was so much more important than eating a steak. You know what I mean? Just having something little to drink and eat every night. That's what was important. Like a beautiful sunset, having my horses healthy and well, like that's what was truly important. So today I value those little things so much, and I see how powerful and how important they are in our lives, and this idea of getting up every day and just opening your eyes and having the ability to feel a headache. You know what I mean? You're alive,
yeah,
man. If you have problems in your life and anxiety, it's because you're alive. So let's control them to the best of our abilities, and let's make the best of this opportunity.
absolutely. There's no reason to get upset at yourself for feeling things.
Yeah.
Ex, you know, uh, Accept what you're feeling. Tell yourself it's
Yeah.
okay that I'm feeling this way, and it's not going to last
Yeah.
forever. And
Yeah,
like we've been talking
exactly.
about this whole episode, one foot in front of the other, man. Just
Yes, sir.
one more
Yep.
step. Let's go. I love that, dude. So we'll fast forward a little bit. Um, Incredible ride to Brazil, 2.5 years, correct?
Yes, sir.
2.5 years of putting in grind work every single day, you and your animals together as one. You get back to Brazil, incredible journey, but you like what was the rebound like after pursuing that goal, achieving that goal? I just can't help think that you might have been like, "Well, fucking now what?" You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure, man. That was like something I never expected, right? Because you dream about this your entire life. You work so hard to actually, undertake it, to start it, and then you go to war to freaking survive it and get there. And then you get there, and it was like the biggest hole I had ever experienced. Like, I just went into depression, anxiety, reoccurring nightmares. Like, it was the hardest 6 months of my life, once I stepped down from that saddle. And at that moment, I didn't really know why. I was broken, obviously. But today, looking back, I realized that, it was a lot of reasons, but mainly I lost purpose to my life, like I had worked so hard to achieve this dream, this goal, and then I got there and it's like, now what? And today, reading books about it and watching documentaries, a lot of professional athletes go through it. A lot of people of success go through it because you put all your energy, you put literally 150% in every single day, grinding to achieve this purpose, this dream, this ideal. And then once you get there, it's kind of like the ground gets taken out from underneath you because you don't know what to do next. You're like, man, I fought so hard for this, and now what? Like, and it's this high, it's like this drug that you experience, this adrenaline, this feeling that is very hard to feel again. And you kind of start searching for it. And I started drinking, I enjoy, not that I enjoy, but I want to talk about this. Exactly. The negative way. We didn't now in a positive way. A demo was a very negative manner where I was trying to suppress this feeling. In the cowboy world, we have this macho mentality of, cowboy up, get through it. If you get hurt, it's fine. Just get back on that horse, which is a great thing. It builds very strong people, but at the same time, it can be dangerous because we don't know how to ask for help, how to reach out. And because we feel like we're being weak, and showing weakness, if we talk about our feelings, and I suppressed it. And today I like to talk about it during my talks or in the doc, in the books, because I don't want other people to go through what I went through, and I want them to search for help. And I want them to know that, guess what? Everyone's going to go through it at some point in their life. You know what I mean? And you're not being weak. You need help to get out of these holes sometimes. And, like I said before, I feel like everything's written, and God took me to this children's cancer hospital where I went to do a talk to these kids. And it was like, God shook me at that moment, being like, man, look at everything you have, look at everything you've accomplished. Like, let's get out of this. And at that hospital, this new purpose was born to raise funds for them, to help them. And I opened Google Maps when I got home. I was like, how can I raise funds for this hospital in Brazil? And, I saw there was 7,500 kilometers to get to Ushuaia, the southern tip of Argentina. And I said, you know what, I'm going to go on another ride to raise funds for this hospital. And that ended up changing my life.
Turned back all around, dude. Incredible. And like, there was so much good intention behind your rides. Like, the first one was your soul fulfilling journey and goal of like, no, I'm being called to do this. And then you go through that rough patch of depression and alcohol, and then you refine that purpose, and you have that good intent behind it. You rock another ride, you end up doing another one, but you, like you said, you had to be the one that like set it all up. The first ride, you had to film it all, which is now a documentary that can be watched. Freaking incredible. I want to talk about that because as somebody who films 90% of their own content, I love filming stuff just in general. What was that process like, man? Was it literally like set the tripod up, get back on your horse, ride for a ways, stop, come back, hit record to stop it, gather that shit up, keep going? Like, what did that look like, man, to document the whole thing? And then please tell everybody where they can watch the documentary, because when you get done this podcast, you're going to watch the doc. It's incredible.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what it was, bro. Just like, you just not only have to live all this and experience it and like survive it, but now you need to also be the guy that's going to capture it. And, it meant getting off the horse, setting everything up, riding back, or those days where you're just dead, man. You just did 30 kilometers. You set up camp. You have these horses in hobbles trying to run off. They're like kids, right? Horses. It's like, they're like kids. Wherever you don't want to touch, you're gonna do like that grind you, pulling back, because he has never saddle pad in his life and it could eat him, right? So you're dealing with all this stress and trying to survive and keep these animals alive, finding water and food and yada yada yada, and then you got to film everything. You just gotta dig deep, bro. And but ultimately, again, I think being a cowboy and all the lessons we learned at such an early age of just cowboy up, bro. I don't care if it's -50 and you got to feed 10 head of horses or take care of a thousand head of beef or whatever it is that you do, wearing a cowboy hat. You just do it till it gets done. And that's it. You just put your head down, tuck your hat down, and just do the work that needs to get done. And ultimately, that was my job. I sold this project to a production company. They paid me monthly, and that's how I was able to live my dream. It wasn't just a dream; it was a job. I created a career out of it, and I had to work. And the work was capturing this journey the best way possible. And I always had that in the back of my mind, and it was what it was. I just had to grind my teeth and get those shots in moments where I may not have felt like pulling out the camera and filming these things.
And I can attest that those are the moments that will make the most impact in a documentary, in whatever kind of video you're doing. It's those moments that you don't want to film that will capture the coolest, most raw, authentic moments in a journey or whatever it is you're doing. So I think,
and that's exactly, you hit the nail on the head. Like, the moments where I was resting, where I was doing nothing, those weren't worth filming because there was no excitement happening. It was when Bruiser fell in that hole, in that huge ditch, and I got to somehow dig him out and film it, because guess what? This is going to be one of the most interesting parts of the documentary, because that's what people are going to be crying about and tense, or when Frenchie got hit by that truck in southern Mexico, and it's now 1 a.m. and the vet has just left stitching this horse, and I've just lived the most traumatic experience of the journey, if not of my life, not knowing if I'm going to lose one of my kids, after he got hit by a truck. And guess what? Now I'm in my tent, exhausted, and I got to pull out the camera and I got to talk about it. But you watch the doc, that's the moment where you hold your breath. And that's the moment, traveling to all these festivals around the world, you could hear a pin drop in these movie theaters, because people were just so into that moment, because you can't recreate that. So yeah, that was a tough part, bro. It was just like having to save these animals' lives, or having to escape the bear, or having to talk to this drug lord and film it. It wasn't easy.
No, man, I got huge respect for just the ride already, which is freaking incredible. And then to have to pile on all that work on top of it is insane. The Schmooze and the Drug Lords is probably one of my favorite stories that you have. That was crossing Honduras, correct?
Yeah, that was it was from Guatemala to enter Honduras. And that's one of the most dangerous regions in the world. Honduras is the most dangerous country in the world for the most amount of deaths per capita. There's way more people dying there than died during the Iraq war or during this war that we're seeing now between Israel and Palestine. Like, people don't realize how dangerous it is, but it's not, it's not one of those things where, the war popped off, now there's tanks, they're fighting. No, it's every day. Like, it's that every day where it's happening in America, what that's all about. It's no bueno. And entering Honduras, I couldn't enter legally, like we had talked about at the beginning of the pod here. And I had to cross through the mountains. But in order to cross through the mountains, you're going through this turf that's controlled by drug lords. And down there, they don't ask who you are. They shoot first and then come ask questions. And, the DEA is constantly running missions in there. The FBI. What are you laughing at?
I don't know. I was just thinking, like, I feel like I grew up so naive in Alberta, right? So when you hear about these things and it's real life, you're just like, oh shit, this actually goes on. You know what I mean? Like, I remember not ever having to do that ever in my life.
Yeah, man, we're so lucky and so blessed to live in parts of the world that you have peace and tranquility, and you don't have to worry about your kids, being taken off the streets and made to work for the cartel, and in another part of the country, or just being killed for no reason, just for being in the way at the wrong time. But anyway, so yeah, Exactly. And yeah, bro, I met this rancher that, was kind of like my father there in Guatemala, and he put me in touch with the drug lord that in Guatemala that put me in touch with the drug lord in Honduras that gave me safe passage, and I was able to cross that region and stay in their homes and get to document a bit of their story as well.
Very cool, man. Very cool to get the inside look at a situation like that. And I know you had said like it was very intimidating because there's guys with guns everywhere. It's a big mansion that's kind of, big walls all around it. And you're literally talking to like head honchos that make decisions on who lives and who dies and the flow of money and everything like that. Like it would it would really come down to you being able to control your mind and just be like, no, I just need to be chill. I need to be a
Yeah.
cowboy and just go with the flow here so I can get the hell out of here.
Yeah, exactly, man. Because it's like at that moment, you're just, although like you might be safe right there that second, everything could go bad in a millisecond. Like those guys are all heavily armed and drinking
Right.
24 hours a day. Like this guy would like they have a lot of mental health issues. Forget about it,
Yeah.
right? Like you don't think about it like you think about these like Pablo Escobar and like this mystification we've created about these drug lords. They're real humans, right? So they live with constant fear that someone is going to kill them at any second of any moment of any day. So they all drink heavily. The first thing this guy did when he woke up in the morning was get a beer. Could be, it usually was later because we stayed up so late. But 11 a.m. he gets up, he's drinking a beer. And we've gone to bed at like 3, 4 in the morning hammered. I'm going to tell a story here I've never told before in a second.
Yes. I can't wait.
But the closest I came to death, I thought, and it was my penis's fault.
Oh my
But
God.
yeah, bro, you never feel safe in these situations because if another cartel comes, you're dead. If the military comes, you're dead. If these people turn on you, you're dead. So you literally need to, exactly what you said, know that you're in a situation that could go any kind of way. It could get Western real quick, but you got to trust your instincts. You got to trust God, and you got to just enjoy the moment because guess what? Very few people in the world will ever have the opportunity to go into the home of a drug lord and live it for a couple
Mhm.
days. You know what I mean? And live it with a different kind of situation as well, because I wasn't in there like a documentary crew. Like I wasn't there with the producer and the sound guy and the director or with CNN and doing an interview or whatever. Like I was crossing the Americas on the back of a horse. I left Canada. I'm now in Honduras. Guess what? This drug lord respects the shit of what I'm doing
Yeah.
because there's two things he knows. It's, respect and it's courage. And I have both because I'm riding through some of the most dangerous places on earth. And so he's already respecting me and taking me into his home in a different manner. It's kind of like a friendship has been created. He also loves horses. And I talk about this all the time. The horse is a common language. That's why, I was able to enter all these different scenarios.
Yeah.
But anyways, that first night, bro, I get into his house. It's in a compound. There's all these walls around the whole thing. I've ridden so hard to get there that day, climbing this freaking mountain. It was muddy. It was like hell. I had to climb this 30-kilometer mountain, rainy season, 45 degrees with humidity in the middle of a jungle, and the horses can't walk. They're just slipping on these boulders and this mud. So I literally have to walk one horse up or like fight my way up this mountain because I can't walk either because my boots have like this much mud stuck to the bottom of them. So I'm fighting my way up this mountain, go back, get the second horse, go back, get the third horse all day. I get there in front of this hole in the wall bar, and he's there with the cartel waiting for me. He tosses me a beer. I grab it in the air. It's a blue can. I look at it. It's called Salva Vidas. It's the national beer of Honduras, which in English translates to lifesaver. I'm like, yo, who's writing the script? Like, this is amazing. So I just chugged the beer, right? And he goes, "You're thirsty." I didn't say it, but I thought of it. I'm like, I'm shitting my pants, bro. Like, I'm hoping this
Yeah.
beer like saves my life. And then we have to ride another 5 kilometers to get to his compound. We
Oh,
get there. He throws this all night party for me. And I was so scared, bro. Like there was so much emotions going on that I just drank profusely. Like I drank so much alcohol. He puts me in the guest bedroom. The next morning I wake up, I've pissed the bed.
oh no.
I have
Really?
pissed the bed
For the
of an
ladies?
international drug lord. I'm like, oh my
No
God.
way,
I'm like,
bro.
this guy's gonna kill me, bro. I just pissed his bed. Like, there's a million. I'm so ashamed and embarrassed, right? So, anyways, I end up turning the mattress so that the piss is on the bottom. I'm not gonna own up and tell this drug. I just met this guy. I couldn't even look in this eye. This guy's eyes harbored so much like evil. I'm like, how am I gonna walk out of this room now and tell this influential drug lord I just pissed his bed? So I just flipped the mattress over and went about my day. But yeah, bro, it was one of the most intense like 3 days of my life, just hanging out with those boys. And every time we drove to town, it was like, yeah, grab 3 more clips. It's like not hair clips for your freaking semi-automatic gun that you have 2 that you're taking with you. And the next guy is holding an AK and he's got 2. And now you got like 4 clips on top of the truck that you're driving into town, and seeing the respect people had for him. Like he had a BlackBerry that like every time it was running out of battery, he'd be like, who's got battery? And everyone would show them their BlackBerry, like so scared. And he would see who had the most battery and take their battery and put on his phone and give them his dying battery.
That's the most gangster thing I've
he
ever
had
heard.
a petting zoo in his house. Like he had, it was insane, bro. But as a journalist, these are moments and these are stories that you dream about telling, right?
I really thought when you said that it was your penis that almost, put you on the chopping block, I really thought you said, I drank heavily and then I woke up next to his daughter and I could.
I wouldn't be here telling you the story, bro.
But honestly,
his daughter and his wife.
Yeah, true. It works out that you peed the bed because we do have him on the other line. We're going to actually ask him if he ever found the pee mattress. So Hector Juarez, what?
No names. He didn't know. Now he knows.
That's crazy, man. Like,
yeah,
I couldn't imagine being put in that situation after that grueling of a day. And I think, like, I hope people are taking into account too that you would have the most grueling day like that, not end up at a freaking massive compound with a bed and a shower. Like most days, you'd have a most grueling day and then no hot shower, a freaking tent to sleep in on a cold ground. Like you weren't getting re-energized the way you properly should be to be pursuing a ride like this, because that's not how this lifestyle works. That's not how a long rider's life works. You don't stop at hotels, bro.
Yeah, no hotels, no Marriotts. Yeah, bro, that is one of the hardest parts, because riding a horse 30 kilometers a day is not that bad. You know what I mean? Your body gets used to it. Sure, it's hard, but that's the easiest part of what I did. When you think about exactly what you're saying, yeah, you rode that horse 30 kilometers. Well, now you're watching them and you're caring for them. You put up your tent, you're sleeping on top of saddle pads. You ate a piece of beef jerky and a granola bar, and you're not doing this for 1 or 2 days. You're doing this for years. So, it takes a toll on your body. It takes a toll on your health. It takes a toll on your ability to succeed in a way, because you're not getting the calories you should be getting. You're losing weight. You're sore all over. You're tired. You're cranky. And you have to get up the next day, take down the tent and do it all over again.
Did you track that? Like, did you weigh yourself before you left for the ride? And then when you made it to Brazil, weigh yourself again? I'm kind of curious to see like what you started at and what you finished at.
Yeah, man, I lost like about 10 pounds during the ride, and I had already lost weight prior to leaving. One of the parts about the planning was trying to get my body as light as possible for these horses. You've ever met a fat jockey? Like these horses are carrying you every day. So you need to have them in mind. Bernice Andy, she passed away. She was one of the greatest, I would say in my eyes, long riders of our generation. This woman rode thousands of miles across the US and Canada and camped with her horses, slept during the winter, like camped all winter, continued in the summers. I met up with her before the journey, you know, and I had several of these long riders that were my mentors, but she was the most strict out of all of them.
Mhm.
And first thing she said to me, she's like, "If you would have had a belly on you, I would have told you to go home. I would have never given you 1 inch of my advice." Like, she was hardcore.
Yeah.
And that's a fact, though. You know what I mean? If you're gonna do this, like, the least you can do is be as light as possible for your animals. So I lost a lot of weight before we left. But the journey itself, like, at least 10 pounds. If you see the videos of me arriving in Brazil, like, I'm skinny, bro. Like, I'm skinny today, but I'm like way more skinny than I am right now when I arrive
Yeah.
down there.
You hear that, team ropers? You don't got to be big to heal good. That's just a rumor. Freaking lose some weight, you'll dally quicker.
Well, but come on, I'll give it to those guys. What are they on a horse for freaking 10 minutes a day? Like, how long are they actually on the horse?
That's very true. You get off to go look at your draw, and then you hang out until you got to run one.
Yeah, you ain't staying on the back of that horse till you get called. When you hear you're on deck, that's when you're tightening cinches and getting that guy.
Cinch up, get on, shake a loop out. Let's run one.
Put the beer down.
That's phenomenal, dude. We are currently at 53 minutes.
Wow,
but I still want to touch real quick because you've done some incredible rides, and then you've converted them into the documentary. You've converted them into some books: The Long Ride Home, Long Ride to the End of the World. What was that process like, putting the journey onto paper and then getting that paper published? Because I know that's got to be a beast of its own.
Yeah, buddy, that was another long ride. You know, like, from the moment I drew the project to undertake this journey, I knew I was going to write the book and make the documentary. But nothing could have prepared me to how difficult that was. You know, when I got to Brazil after that first journey, I had written a lot of things. I would write like 3 blogs a week for this production company. I wrote for the Toronto Star, a newspaper out of Toronto, Canada. Wrote for a newspaper in Brazil. So I got all that and things that I had journaled that I couldn't tell at the time, like the drug lord stories and all of that. I got all that and spent 7 months to write the book. And then once the book was ready, which, I mean, not even ready, it was just like this. I always talk about the book kind of like a diamond. It starts out with this rock, and, you know, you got to go into it and you got to work and put pressure on it until it becomes that beautiful diamond. And it's got to go through a lot of different hands. You know, there's a whole team behind the book. You know, there's editors and there's publishers and there's a whole machine behind it. But once I finished that book that I took 7 months to write, then the next journey was to sell the book, to find a publisher that believed in the story that, you know, people don't read anymore. That's just the reality of the world we live in today, you know? So they, just like movies, they're afraid to think outside the box because they just want to do Fast and the Furious 17 because they know there's an audience for it. And books are the same way. You know, they want these YouTubers that have 3 million followers or whatever, 30 million followers, because no matter what they put into that book, it will sell and it will generate an income for them. So I always say that today, I feel like the next, the next Shakespeare could not be found because he doesn't have millions of followers, and that's what it takes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it was really tough to get someone to believe in this story, especially coming from, written by a cowboy, as you know, we're heavily judged. But eventually found, HarperCollins printed my book in Brazil. It took, I want to say, like 3 years before they actually bought the book. And it's funny because once they published that first book, I was in the saddle a week out of Ushuaia. I was about to arrive in Ushuaia. So that's how long it took to actually publish that first book. And then the other 2 were a little easier. But it's really hard to actually get these products out,
Yeah, to break the ice, right? To get that first one, because then once the first one goes and it does well, which it has, well then they're kind of probably coming to you like, hey, what are you following it up with, type thing.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. It becomes a little bit easier once you get that first one out.
Yeah. Dang, dude, that's so cool. Where can people find the doc, and where can people find your books?
So the doc, depending on what country you're in, it's going to be in different streamers. So the best way to do it is just put in, where can I watch the Long Rider documentary on Google? And it will tell you on what country you're at, what platform it's on. And the books is super easy, also on Amazon, just amazon.com, amazon.ca. All 3 books are on there, and they will ship them off to your house.
Wicked. And if you're consuming on YouTube, I will have those links down in the caption, so they'll be super easy to go find. Highly recommend. Phenomenal story. Watch the doc. Filipe, how many miles have you ridden total?
So the end miles, you kill me with the miles. Kilometers is 27,000 kilometers, which I think in miles would be like, I don't know, 18,000 miles, something like that, 16,000 miles.
Yeah, that's got to be close. So
something like that.
You have surpassed the minimum 1,000 mark by an extraordinary amount, man. And then you've grown it into a beautiful career of, doing a ton of public speaking all over the Americas, just helping other people realize that you're capable of so much if you find the purpose, the passion, and most importantly, the discipline and the drive, which you have. So man, it's been so cool to hear about your journey. I've got to hear about it quite a few times, and like I said at the beginning of this podcast, every single time I hear something new. And
man, for sure.
You're being the best.
And same thing with you, like there was crazy. Yeah, it's the same thing with you. Just interviewing you, there was things that I didn't know, and that's what's cool about it. And I feel like this is just the tip of the iceberg. For everyone listening, thank you so much once again for being on this journey with us. This ride, we're just starting, so I want to apologize again for my mic not working properly on the first 2, but we're only going to get better. But you guys are going to be able to find out who we really are, and I think a lot of other stories which we haven't been able to share. As we continue this journey, as we bring other phenomenal people that we get to talk to and interview on the pod. And yeah, man, I'm really looking forward to it.
Dude, how about you sprinkle a little bit of a teaser on who we're going to have for our first guest episode?
Oh man, I'm super excited. Our first guest, I think we couldn't have picked a better human, athlete, horseman. This guy is just one of the nicest guys I've ever met. So humble, and one of the biggest talents in the rodeo world today. The man they call money, Shad Mayfield, is going to be our first guest on the pod. He is not only, sitting at the top of Professional Rodeo Cowboys Association in the tie down. He is also sitting at the top in the all around. He has a very good chance of winning his first all-around buckle this year, his second title in the tie down. And like I said, he's just an amazing guy. He's super humble and just a great ambassador to the sport and to Western heritage. And I'm stoked to have Shad on the pod.
Absolutely, man. He is on track to hit the Hall of Fame, and we're really excited to bring him in and bullshit with him and have a good time. And so something that we started doing at the end of each episode is we have a question I'm going to ask you this time because you asked me last time.
Yes, sir.
The podcast is Should Have Been a Cowboy. And so we are going to be asking our guests and our people, if you are a cowboy already, what would you want to be if you weren't? And if you aren't a cowboy, what kind of cowboy would you want to be? So Filipe, obviously already a cowboy. So what do you think you would be if you weren't a cowboy?
Oh man, I think that's if I wasn't a cowboy, I think I'm going to go with your answer, bro. Honestly, like I think surfing, like that's the one sport that just gets under my skin so much. I just want to do it. I just want to learn how to be good at it. And it's so hard because we live far from the ocean, right?
I know.
But
landlocked.
Like the freedom, the difficulty of it, the connection to the natural world. Like there's so many parallels to being a cowboy, that I think that would be my answer as well. I'd also be a surfer. So maybe we should, if we ever have like a second podcast, we could call it Should Have Been a Surfer.
Should have been a surfer. Dude, I was already thinking in my brain, I'm like, hey, we're already looking at trying to go to Brazil next year for Barretos. But like to go down there and do some surfing on your home turf, that could be a freaking blast.
Yeah, we should definitely do that. And we should definitely get some surfers to interview as well, right? Yeah. I think they're awesome guys and
athletes, man.
Athletes, yeah. Any kind of, once you go pro, bro, like the amount of work, grit, sleepless nights, tears, blood. It takes to get there. Like it's not for the faint of heart, that's for sure. So it'd be awesome to get any kind of professional athlete here, any kind of professional that's made it in any business, I guess, right? That found success. I always say that the difference between success and failure is not giving up. It's the people that are able to, like we said, one foot in front of the other, just continue to move ahead no matter what is happening around them, and those are the kind of people I'd like to surround myself with and have on the pod.
Absolutely, man. And we're ticking them off one by one. I know I told you about this idea I had about me telling you something in Portuguese.
Yeah.
And so here's my first one. Are you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready to go.
I got to remember, I've been practicing Spanish, but Portuguese is a little bit more throaty, isn't it? Would you say? Versus like rolling the R's. Versus rolling the R's.
Doing Portuguese. If you're speaking Portuguese while sucking on a dick, I'd say, yeah, it's very throaty.
Explain what I'm saying here. I've noticed that Spanish is more like rolling the R's off the tongue, and I've noticed like my Portuguese friends it's very from the depths. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's so funny. And I've never heard that, but I will definitely pay attention to it now.
Okay, so here we go. I'm going to try this out. I'm going to say it how the best I can, and then you're probably going to laugh. But we're going to see how it goes. Ready?
Just use your throat.
Okay. Esse é bello cavallo. Posso ficar com ele.
Very good.
Not bad.
This is a beautiful horse. Can I fuck him? No, it didn't say. But you know what's funny? You didn't say fuck, but the way you said it, ficar com ele, means can I keep him?
Yeah.
That's the literal meaning of it. Can I have him?
Yeah.
But it also means like to hook up with someone.
Oh,
like,
really?
We don't say like the word for hook up in Brazil is ficar. Eu fiquei com aquela menina, cara. Ela é linda. Like I hooked up with that girl. She's beautiful. So you got to be careful with the double meanings in Portuguese. One word can mean many things.
That's good to know, because I literally just punched into Google Translate English to Portuguese. That's a nice horse. Can I have him? So I'm honestly always curious, because I would learn stuff in Spanish and then go say it to the people that I worked with at the dive shop. And somebody like Sophia would be like, "Oh no, don't do that. Don't say that to somebody.
Don't say that to the customers."
So be careful, okay? Google may or may not be setting you up for failure.
Yeah. When I bring you to my village, don't open with that, okay?
My line, when I was
your pronunciation was perfect. Pronunciation was 10 out of 10. Very throaty, some might say.
Okay, buddy. Well, it's been phenomenal getting to learn more about your journey. I hope everybody has enjoyed. Please go find his books. Find his documentary. We got some really fun episodes planned. Should have been a cowboy. We're rocking and rolling.
Rocking and rolling, baby. Another great episode. We'll see you next time with Shad Money Mayfield.